Setting up the Onefinity CNC Revolution 4th Axis Rotary for the original and Pro Series machines with Buildbotics controller. To start, we've laid everything out to become familiar with it. From left to right, we have our riser blocks for the Forman only. We have our X-axis riser blocks for the woodworker and journeyman models. We have a chuck key with our probe wire. We have our mounting hardware for QCW or non-QCW users. We also have a material adapter plate and our Y-axis splitter box with all of the necessary wires. If you have a woodworker or journeyman machine, the first thing you'll do is install the X-axis riser blocks. These will fit between the foot of the X-axis and the Y gantry. Starting on the back of the foot on the left side of the X-rail, we'll use a 4mm hex key to remove the bolt that holds the ends of the drag chains in place, making it easier to access our rail mounting bolts. Once the bracket holding the end of the drag chain wires has been removed, we can switch to a 5mm hex key to remove the bolts holding the X-rail to the Y-rail gantries. We'll do this on both feet of the X-rail. To install the riser block, simply lift the X-rail just enough to slide the block into place between the X foot and the Y gantry. It's very important to make sure that this goes in square so that the bolt holes line up and you're able to reattach the X-rail to the Y gantry block. After both blocks have been placed underneath the X-rail feet, we can resecure them with the included bolts and a 5mm hex key. Here on the left side, we are going to reinstall the drag chain clip that holds the wires in place. We'll use a 4mm hex key and the bolt we removed earlier. Moving back to the right foot of the X-rail, we'll use the remaining 4 bolts that were included with the riser blocks and a 5mm hex key to secure the rail in place. Our next step is to make sure that our Z-slider is mounted in its highest position. The highest position uses the lowest set of holes, giving us the most clearance underneath the Z-axis gantry. If you selected the QCW option for the rotary, your mounting hardware will look like this. We're going to use a 5mm hex key on the left side to remove the second from the outermost bolt from the QCW tube. We'll reuse this bolt, placing it through the hole in the QCW mount bracket for the rotary, and resecure that in place. On the front right corner of the QCW, we will remove the rightmost bolt from the QCW tube and place it through the hole in our mounting bracket. Once through that hole, we can resecure this to the QCW with a 5mm hex key. With our mounting brackets now attached to our QCW frame, we can shift our attention to the rotary axis itself. The rotary QCW mounting kit comes with spacer blocks for use with the Easy ATC as well as the Easy Z tool setter. We recommend installing these even if you don't have them so that you're set up for future use if you do decide to add those products. We'll secure the spacer blocks with the 2.5mm hex key and the included bolts. These spacer blocks will only fit on one end of the axis respectively, so make sure that you have them in the right places. We'll next thread in our QCW locator shaft for our mounting bracket, and once we have that hand tight, we'll follow it up with an adjustable wrench just to make sure that things are snug. Moving to the tailstock end of our 4th axis, we're going to attach the smaller spacer block using the included hardware and a 2.5mm hex key. After doing that, we'll thread in our QCW locating shaft by hand and tighten it down all the way with an adjustable wrench. With all of our mounting hardware now installed, we can place the axis on the table and slide it into the QCW mounts. With the rotary seated in the mounting brackets, we can now secure it in place using the 2 knobs to thread into the QCW locating shafts. If you ordered the rotary without the QCW mounting kit, it will come with threaded inserts and bolts to secure the rotary to the wasteboard. We're going to use a V-bit to cut a line parallel to the X-axis to align the rotary to ensure that everything is square and will cut properly. We'll load our V-bit into our router or spindle and secure it in place with our collet wrenches before cutting a line all the way across our wasteboard. With the line cut into our wasteboard, we can drag the rotary forward to line up the front of the foot of the rotary with the line. We're going to do this on both sides before we mark where our holes are going to go for our threaded inserts. With our rotary axis now aligned parallel to the x-axis, we can mark our mounting holes for our threaded inserts. With the locations of all 4 of the mounting holes now marked, we can follow that up with a 1/4 inch bit to prepare them to insert our threaded inserts. After drilling our holes, we can now use a 4mm hex key to secure our threaded inserts to the wasteboard. They should sit flush once fully seated. With our threaded inserts installed, we can now slide our rotary back into its position on top of them and secure it in place using the included bolts and a 3mm hex key. Now that we've covered both of our mounting options, we're going to change our focus to the riser blocks for use with the Forman model machines. The riser blocks will go between the tailstock live center and the bracket that it sits on, as well as the rotary chuck and the bracket that it sits on. We'll start on the tailstock end, removing the existing bolts with a 3mm hex key. Now that those bolts are removed, we can place the riser block between the live center of the tailstock and the bracket that it sits on. We'll lift the frame of the rotary, then place the riser block in between the bracket and the live center, making sure to align everything so our bolts will drop in. After that, we can drop in our 4 new bolts that will come with the riser block and secure them in place with a 3mm hex key. Switching over to the chuck head side of the axis, we can use a 2.5mm hex key to remove the existing bolts from the bottom of the chuck head bracket. With those bolts removed, we can lift the frame of the rotary up off of the table and place our spacer block between the bracket that it sits on and the chuck head itself. Once all of that is aligned, we can drop in our bolts and secure them in place with a 3mm hex key. With our riser blocks now installed, we'll flip the axis back over, and now we can use much larger pieces of material with our Forman. Round stock can be placed directly into the chuck jaws of the rotary, only needing to find the center for the tailstock. However, for square stock, you'll need to find the center of the material to align with the material adapter plate. To install the material adapter plate to your material, you'll first need to drill a pilot hole in the center. Then we are going to be able to attach our material adapter plate through the center hole using a single screw. Once we have our first screw in the center in place, we can drill more pilot holes around the outside of the material adapter to secure it with more screws, preventing the material from turning on the material adapter. We'll follow up in those pilot holes, inserting 4 more wood screws, and the material can be loaded into the chuck. To load the material into the chuck, we'll first start by tightening down the chuck jaws all the way. Then we can place our material adapter over them before opening them back up. We'll get these opened up, and once we have it sitting loosely, we can move to the other end and we can align our live center with our pre-drilled hole in the center of our material. We'll get that in place and tighten down our adjustment knobs. Then we can make one more adjustment with the center knob, and turning the live center counterclockwise, we can place tension on the piece. Once our live center has been adjusted, we'll secure it with the center knob, then move back to our chuck head and tighten everything down with the key. Next, we can move on to our wired connections. Here, for simplicity, we've only shown the Y wires that are used. You'll disconnect the M1 and M2 cables going to the back of the controller, and we'll set those aside for use later. The rotary kit for Buildbotics controller will come with 2 cables labeled M1 and M2 on both ends. We're going to connect these cables to the appropriate slots in the back of the controller. Next, we'll connect the other end of both of those wires to our Y-axis splitter box. We'll plug the M1 into M1 control and the M2 into the M2 control port. After connecting to both of our control ports, we're now going to reuse the wires that we removed from the back of the controller, plugging the M1 wire into the M2 motor port and the M2 wire into the M2 motor port. If you've previously disconnected the M1 and M2 wires from the Y1 and Y2 rail, connect both of those at this point. The Y-axis splitter box runs off of a 12-volt power supply. We'll plug the 12-volt connector into the Y-axis splitter box itself, and the other end will plug into the wall. After connecting to power, a blue light will appear just next to the port where the rotary plugs in. We'll make our last connection plugging our rotary into this port before turning on our Y splitter box. To turn on the Y-axis splitter box, simply press the power button and a green LED indicator will appear when powered on. Now that we've covered all the hardware, we'll cover the firmware as well. If you're using the Buildbotics controller with the rotary, you must be using version 1.6.2 or later of the firmware. If you're using an earlier version, it will not have the correct buttons and functions to use the rotary. Version 1.6.2 introduces the rotary axis button here on the top right that you see, and when we click on this button, it's going to bring up a box that prompts us to turn on our Y-axis splitter box. You must turn this on at this point. We also recommend pressing the digital e-stop, not the e-stop on the controller, to prevent the screen from blacking out momentarily when this change occurs. After doing so, you can see that the rotary button has turned green, and now our probing buttons have turned into rotary probing buttons, as well as added buttons for A-axis jogging and a return to the A-axis origin button. Unlike the Elite series, the original and Pro rotaries do not have a homing sensor, so we must manually set our A-axis position. We'll click on the gear icon, it will display a 0 in the box, and we'll click OK to set our 0 position in our current position. If we navigate to the settings page on the flyout menu, we'll see a new section under this probing section. We obviously have our standard probing settings, but we also now see a probe rotary setting. This will include all of our probe offsets as well as the speed at which our probe will travel when in rotary mode. To probe in rotary mode, we'll click the probe button and select XYZ or Z only. From there, we'll select the diameter of our bit, click Next, and after clicking Next on the next page, the probing process will begin. When probing X, Y, and Z, it will first touch off of Z twice, then move over, touch off the side for X twice, then we'll move to the back of the probe and touch off twice for the Y-axis. Once the probing process is completed, don't forget to remove the magnet as well as the banana plug to avoid getting them caught up in the router or spindle. Now that we've completed both the hardware and firmware setup, you're ready to start carving on your Onefinity Revolution 4th axis.